live. Happy Tuesday, besties and bosses. How are you all doing? We are in the home stretch of the year. I love this time of the year, and it's also so wild to me. So while I'm talking, if my eyes don't look like they're paying attention to you, I am scrolling to see if I can see our live here so I can see our comments. But while I'm doing that, say hi if you're joining live. Oh, there we go. I can see myself. I can see I got a new haircut and hair tool. I'm still figuring out how to style it. So I think I have bouncier hair than I usually do. So I just saw my almost feels like 70s hair pop up on the screen. I'm so excited to see you all. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. I'm also looking forward to closing out the year with y'all. We've got a good conversation today and then a juicy conversation that I will probably tease a little bit or allude to in this week's conversation. So before we dive into today's conversation, usually we have a giveaway if you join live, but it is the holidays and gifts are my business love language. I think they're one of my love languages outside of business as well. So we have taken my 6-week sales course, Sell Out Without Feeling Like a Sellout, that walks you through the mindset, clarity, strategy, and action of creating a sales process that you can apply to your business, you can personalize to your business. It is the exact framework I've used to get and stay fully booked in my coaching practice for 5 years. We've generated, end of this year, it'll be about 1.3 million in the past 5 years. This is what my clients have used to do everything from go to their first 10K month to 6 figures to multi 6 and 7 figures. I've helped 28 clients make 10K months or more, 15 clients make their first 6 figures, many clients double that and triple that to multi 6, and 3 clients scale to $1 million. This is the foundation that all of those clients are using. I'm giving that away for free until January 1st. That is my holiday gift to you. So this is not just for one person, it is for everyone. Sometimes we give these away to one person, but I will drop a link for that. You'll also see links in my group. That is my holiday gift to you. I hope you will take me up on it. There are no strings attached. All you gotta do is give me your email address so that we know where to send it to. You can even unsubscribe afterwards if you want, because you'll get instant access to everything. I would love to have you on my email list because I think we share quite a lot of free value in there, and I think it's a pretty good list to be on, but you don't even have to stay on there if you want. You can just take this, get the download. It's all in a PDF for you. Get instant access to all 6 weeks of content. Take it, run with it, use it, go make a lot of money. That's what I want you to do. That is my goal for you. I make plenty of money myself. There's enough to go around. I want to help you, whether or not we ever work together, set yourself up to make reliable and reoccurring revenue in your business. So take me up on this course. Again, it's going to walk through strategy things, everything from how to attract those right fit leads to hosting free calls, hosting discovery calls, navigating objections, following up, all of the things you need to sell and make money. That's my gift to you. I hope you will enjoy it. Now we're going to talk sales more because yes, it is the end of the year. Yes, I know many of us are winding down, but I think there's a couple of things we need to chat about. So the title of this is Struggling to Make Sales. Here's what's working right now. I know earlier in this year, we had a conversation around some of the things I've seen working because I do think things have shifted in the online space, and I wanted to close the year out. I know it's not our last live stream of the year, we'll have one next week, but I wanted to close out this conversation for a few reasons. First and foremost, I wanted to level set 2023. This is a conversation I've had with a lot of my clients, that I've had with a lot of my peers, and I don't think everyone's having it forward facing until we hear something like, I just saw another very big business owner who I thought was making 7 figures has completely shut down their business. Now, my heart goes out to them. I can only imagine what they went through emotionally, what that feels like. I can only guess as to some of the reasons for that. But I think it can be very jarring when you're on the other side and you're seeing someone who you think is making 7 figures, making a lot of money. It's sort of like the dream maybe you aspire to, or you see as the inspiration of what's possible, and then you hear that their business is closing down. I think it can be very scary for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if you're not at that place yet, or you're not working with someone who maybe seen what's really going on in the industry or behind the scenes. I think it can feel like, oh shit, if that's happening to them, what's going to happen to me? And I think 2023, and we've had so many conversations this year about that, so I won't go too far into that, but I do think this has been a year where we have just seen, it has been, how do I want to phrase this? I think it's just been more, there's been a longer customer journey to bring in sales, maybe a better way to say it. What I will say is I think, yes, we've seen more businesses. I've seen more behind the scenes. I've offered more free calls this year, and I've seen more businesses who appear to be successful struggling than ever before. But I also see behind the scenes in my business, and what I can share just to give you the other side of things is I have many clients who've increased their revenue this year. I have clients who've doubled their revenue, clients who've jumped from 6 to multi six figures. I have a client who's going to hit $1 million this year. Many clients who've had their first 10K months this year. So I've also seen a lot of people thrive this year. My business might not be adding on an additional 100 or 200K. In the past, we've had years where we've added on 132K to my one-on-one revenue, but we are sustaining. We've stayed fully booked all year. We're going to sustain our revenue. That's a spoiler alert to what we're going to talk about next week. So I'm also seeing how, as much as we're seeing, oh, this is maybe we're hearing about the economy and how saturated it is and the trust problems in the industry and that people are struggling to book clients. I think, yes, there is some reality and truth to that, and I've seen more of that than ever. And I want to normalize that for you if this year has felt harder than other years in the past, or if you're just starting business this year and you're then seeing someone who has a big company who you thought was super successful close their doors and it's feeling a little challenging for you. I want to normalize that. I do think this has been, I'm so mindful to say, I don't think challenges are wrong, but I don't want to create a false story or a false belief for anyone. I think it's just that what we've seen is, I've said this before, that it is a buyer's market. And when it's a buyer's market, there are more options. And I think that just means that as sellers, right, we have to know there's probably going to be a longer customer journey. We might have to pivot, we might have to adjust, we might have to do some things to bring in clients that maybe when it's a seller's market, we don't have to do. And so I think that's really what this year has been. So I wanted to normalize that and level set that first, because again, if you're seeing businesses closing and you don't have the context and that's all you see and you hear people complaining and your context is this year has been hard, I think it's very easy then to come up on the end of the year to do a year in review of your business and to think, well, shit, if they're closing, why would I even bother next year? And I really want you to have a different perspective and to see, and I won't even try to guess as to why. I have thought as to why certain businesses have closed. I do think that can happen. I also think from some of the cases I've seen, I think this is not what the conversation is about today, but maybe it's just helpful to level set. I do think, and this is a perspective, this is me guessing, I do not know intimate knowledge for any of these businesses that I've seen, but just to maybe help you understand so that you're also not giving up on your business or thinking that your business can't be successful or you can't thrive or you can't book clients right now. And then we will talk about what's working right now in terms of sales and why I wanted to close the year with one of our last live streams with that conversation. But some of the businesses I'm seeing that have really, really struggled or closed their doors this year, some of the reason for that is some of them grew really quickly, and because of that didn't have the foundation and infrastructure needed to hold and scale a business. And then in a more challenging year, not only was that infrastructure not there and support not there, but some of what allowed them to grow quickly was no longer the strategy that was really what was needed this year. And those business owners either had too much on their plate because they were keeping up with delivery or not willing to, or didn't have the emotional support and regulation capacity because of either not having that foundation, needing to build that in their business, or because of things happening outside of their business, to lean into looking at what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be pivoted. I think one of the things we're also seeing is my coach has talked a lot about data this year, and it's just been really interesting to notice. I think for a while when we were in a seller's market, I think you could not get away with not looking at data and not having as refined a message and not having as drilled in a strategy, and you, like less kind of would have a shorter customer journey and less would sell. And I think just when we're in a buyer's market, those things just shift. So again, I'm guessing as to what happened there, but just to give some nuance, that I don't think this means that everyone needs to freak out when you're seeing a business shut its doors and that means your business is in trouble or your business can't thrive. I really want to be evidence for you. My business has been completely sustainable for 5 years. We've added revenue pretty much every year for the past 5 years, except for this year. And this year we've still maintained and sustained and stayed fully booked. And not only have I seen clients sustain this year, but I've seen many clients scale and add on revenue this year. So if you're in a place where your doors are still open and you're either sustaining or you've added on anything, I would really see that as evidence for how well you're doing, given that this year is I think it's just helpful to see it. It's not like it's challenging, not challenging, it's hard to make money, not hard to make money. Again, I've seen clients make more money than ever this year. I would just see it more as oh, it's a buyer's market and my doors are still open, people are still buying from me, and I'm sustaining or scaling, I'm doing things right. And I would really see that. And this is a time to keep your eyes on your own paper versus looking at what's happening with other businesses. I think you can use that as just like, oh, what's interesting there? Like, is there anything I want to be aware of to implement in my business? But I really don't want anyone closing the year and then deciding this means for them they can't have success. Now, let's talk about what is working to bring in clients. What I thought would be helpful is because we talked earlier this year, I think I talked a little bit more about marketing, some of the strategies I'm seeing are working. And I thought to close out, since it's now been, whenever we had that conversation, 6 months, 8 months, there's just that many more data points in my business, in my client's business. And I also want to have the conversation on what I'm seeing. I was telling this to a client today. I'm also really seeing our industry shift in a positive way. I'm seeing momentum pick up. I'm seeing, I don't know if it's like shifting from a buyer's to a seller's market, but I'm seeing exponentially more leads, people buying. I think there's a story that people don't buy in December, but it's been, I mean, even in my own business, I'm seeing a very big shift in that. I'm seeing that through so many of my clients' businesses. So I want to offer that as a perspective, since I do have the gift of seeing behind the scenes of so many businesses since I only work with clients one-on-one and in multiple industries and in multiple spaces using multiple strategies, but also through my peers because I'm in 2 masterminds. So just to maybe give you that evidence that I really do think things are shifting, but I also think it's helpful as we've talked through some of these things to see like, oh, but what is working right now as we're heading into the end of the year, as we're setting ourselves up for 2024. What are some of the things that I've seen work and that I've seen are working presently? So I wanted to share a couple of things as we dig into that. I don't know if this is useful or helpful for you, but I know this is something I would be interested in knowing. I pulled up the new clients we brought in this year. So for context, for those of you who don't know my work, I run a one-on-one only coaching practice, and I have between 20 and 25 one-on-one clients at a given time. That's all I sell and offer at this point. That might change in the future. I might have something up my sleeves for kind of summer next year for you, but that's for the last 5 years. That's really all I've offered. And many of my clients renew and work with me long term. I have clients who renew for a year at a time and have been with me for 4 years, 5 years, maybe that whole time that I've been fully booked. Anyway, so some of my business model is, I think one-on-one is the simplest model in that way, because if you have great service and great clients, right, you're retaining clients, you don't have as many spots to fill. So to normalize that as I'm sharing this, but I thought it would also be very helpful to hear where did each of my new clients come from, because I've shared some like overall strategies that work, but I thought it would be helpful to hear someone who is making multi-6 figures. We bring in about $350K per year. We'll see what this year shakes out to be, but it should be sustained around that, maybe a little bit less, but something around that from one-on-one. To see at this level, as someone who's been booked out, who's holding an audience like this, what are some of the actual things that have really worked to bring in clients this year, because they are very different than what brought in clients last year and the year before. The core foundation, the core principles are the same, but there are definitely some different strategies I've implemented. So I thought that would be helpful to hear, because I think some of what I've implemented is one of the reasons we've stayed fully booked this year. And then I also wanted to talk about some of my clients who have increased their revenue this year, and to talk about the varying strategies they're using, just so you can see evidence of it's not all just like this one thing. And then 2 core components of my clients' sales process that I'm seeing every client who's made more money this year or sustained their revenue, and myself as well. The 2 core components I'm really seeing as what has driven or drove, well, it's very correct there, those results. And the clients who are not willing to lean into these things have just had a harder time. So that's what we're going to dive into. I hope this will be valuable for you, even if you're like, hey, it's about to be the end of the year. I'm not necessarily bringing new clients towards the end of the year. We're about to be in 2024. So if this is working right now, I'm pretty sure you can imagine this is going to work in 2024 for you to set up your new year. And I also am hoping you'll see a lot of these are universal principles and strategies that always work. I'm just seeing them to be particularly relevant now. And I also notice sometimes it's like helpful to hear what other people are doing. I think sometimes it's just very normalizing to see. I think everything I'm gonna share with you, you're like, oh, well, I knew that, I'm just not doing it. Or, oh, I felt like I shouldn't have to do that. Or, oh, like, really, Kim? Like, you did that to get a client? So I think sometimes it's just helpful to have those things normalized. Okay. I need a little water because I am thirsty AF. And it's having the heat on in the winter. I feel like every winter live stream I'm like hacking towards the end. Let me pull up my notes because I did actually look through my roster so that I could share some of these details with you. I think this is also helpful to hear. I'm going to share even just this month. This is not the details, but I should let you all know this. I know last call I think I said we were booking for January. This is just even I think helpful to hear with what's working right now. We are fully booked for January. Those spots have been snagged and taken up. So I am currently booking for February spots. I think we still have some available for February. And then I randomly have a spot in December because apparently no one wants to get started in December or do an intensive in December. So if you want to do an intensive or get started, I do have availability next week because I have quite a few clients going out of town. Otherwise, if this is I'm like, I know I'm pitching in the middle of a live stream, but this is just popping into my head. It feels important to share. If you are wanting or thinking about working with me and that's been on your radar, I would highly recommend booking a call with me now because we're looking at February already if you don't jump in now for December, and then, obviously the time will keep getting pushed out. But I think that's helpful to hear just as evidence that yes, there are businesses closing, and also there are people who are wanting to hire coaches, who are wanting to invest to the degree that I'm needing to tell you, jump on a call. We're going to be booking out a couple months pretty soon. So I share that because I hope that will be helpful. I mean, obviously, if you're wanting to work together, I want you to know so you have that heads up, but also just so you can see that as evidence. So just looking at the last few clients who came through the door, I think this would actually be really helpful for you to know, because one of the things I want you to see, or a couple of things I want you to see, is how much my business is focused on and my clients focus on messaging, and really understand. That's just something I have overly focused on this year and drilled into with my clients, and continuing to refine that. But really looking at relationship building, customer journey, and being willing to take steps to help someone to feel welcome and to invite them into the next step in the customer journey, and be willing to be of service in a way that frankly other people aren't willing to do. That is sort of like, if I was to boil down what I see working across the board, it's that right there, right? It's clear messaging, it's a clear offer, it's having a clear customer journey, and knowing that your customer journey might be longer and allowing for that, and then really just being willing to be that service provider. This does not mean burnout, this does not mean don't charge for your service, but just being willing to be that person who cares so much about your offer, who cares so much about service, who cares so much about working with the right fit people. That is something I feel like I'm on a tear talking about, because I have just seen what difference that makes. But really being willing to take that step before a paying client to help them feel welcome, to help them to create a safer container for the sales conversation and process and that customer journey, and to be willing to share that value up front for people. That is what will always work. I have just seen how being willing to take that extra step when other people feel like they're too good for it or they shouldn't have to is the game changer. I've had a couple of, be very mindful of how I say this. I have connected with more people this year because I've been willing to offer free calls, and I've connected with some people who have had a very tough time this year, and one of the reasons for that is, I believe, and I do not know if this is why the business I'm referencing shut down at all. I do not think that is their situation, but I have seen how, and I'm just wanting to be very mindful of how I frame this, but just to protect anonymity, I can never say that, confidentiality as well, but just almost like the confrontation, how confronting it can be if you're at a certain stage in business, to feel like you almost have to go backwards to certain strategies, and how the resistance around that can make it much more challenging when it is a buyer's market. I don't think it's that people aren't willing to or think they're too good for something. I think it's more that there's just resistance, and it can feel like I've moved past that, or I shouldn't have to do that, or if I was good at what I did, or if my stuff was working, this worked a couple of years ago, it should work again. And I think the clients I've seen who've had less resistance and just been more willing to be like, okay, cool, so it's 2023. What's working? Let me roll up my sleeves. Let me just do the thing. I've just had a much easier time. Okay, so I told you I was going to tell you things, and I'm babbling around. So let's look at a couple of the people who came in. So one, don't mind me as I'm reading a little bit. I just wanted to actually see my notes so that I'm telling you accurate information. So one one new client is a past client who took a pause and came back. And I share that because I think that is something that we don't always hear from people. And I think there's a couple pieces to that. One, so normalize that. If you haven't been in business for a long time, right, that's probably not an opportunity. One of the easiest ways, this is why I think one-on-one is, I mean, I love it for all the reasons, but I also think it's frankly the easiest business model to grow, sustain, and to scale, even though other people want to say it's not, because this is one of the reasons you build really great relationships and you can really support and serve people deeply. And if you focus on that, even if you have a group program or mastermind, you can do the same in that. But if you focus on building relationships, serving people deeply, creating excellent delivery through your products, right? Just really focus on client service and delivery. That alone is going to create some of the best word of mouth marketing and repeat clients, whether they're reoccurring right back to back or clients that come back around later. So that is one. Another one recently was a referral. So I think just normalizing that as well, that the longer you're in business, the more referrals you're going to have. And referrals are basically from the same thing. And I say that because I think sometimes we just forget. It doesn't have to always be more complicated than that. And sometimes simply focusing on doing good work and focusing on your clients and making it about your clients instead of yourself, and making it about serving them really well instead of needing money or whatever that is the very thing that will bring in clients. So two right there. One, I think this is actually very interesting to hear. The customer journey of this was from a post that we shared in another group. So one of our strategies is we post content in other Facebook groups, and we have been doing that every day for years. However, the beginning of this year, one of my main process goals in my business was focusing on messaging and content and really drilling into how I can be really specific and speak to my people and what they need to hear. And so what I've seen, and I just had an example of this, but I've seen this quite a bit this year, and this happened in past years, but I've just seen it more this year because we've been focused on this, and maybe we're also tracking data, so I'm noticing it more. But how I will get a call from someone who's ready on the phone with me to hire me, and when we unwind the tape from where that came from, or unwind the customer journey, what I find is there was a specific post that really spoke to them, and they'll usually reference a post. So that to me tells me it's not just that they saw my name, but there was something very specific because I've been very clear, intentional, specific in content that then caused them to follow my work and to consume more content for a bit of time and then book a call with me. And again, I know this is like not brand new information, but I think it's helpful to hear. That is, I've had a few of those examples recently and where specific content has been referenced. And I say that because I know I talk to clients who think that content doesn't work anymore, or Facebook groups don't work anymore, or Instagram doesn't work anymore, or it doesn't work anymore to post your content. Like, no one buys from content anymore. And I'm just seeing how not true that is at all. And I'm going to share about some clients who don't use this strategy at all. But if that is a part of your strategy, I think it's just helpful to hear. And absolutely seeing, I think content, if anything, is working better than it used to. I think it's just requiring more intentionality and maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say effort. Yeah, I put more effort. I don't even think there's anything. I think sometimes we're like so afraid to say that something takes a little bit more work or effort because everything's supposed to be like easy breezy and take 15 minutes in the online space to make $1 million. I have absolutely put in more time and effort into our messaging and content this year, and I'm absolutely seeing, especially since I think so many people have put in less effort and outsource more or given more to ChatGPT, or frankly, I think a lot of people are having the aftermath of COVID and a little bit overwhelmed or burnt out in business. And so I think fewer people have been doing that, and I'm really seeing the benefits of that. With that, we've had quite a few clients come from a specific post, but this is why I want you to hear those steps. It would be so, I think, fucked up of me to be like, yeah, I booked up a bunch of clients this year because of one post. And that's not really the whole truth. The truth is, yeah, it's one post in air quotes, but that one post, first, to be specific and clear, was the result of however many posts that I was testing and tweaking messaging that didn't land as well, and showing up every day with content. And then that post led to someone reading another post that probably led to them watching a live stream, that probably led to them listening to a podcast, right? We have a lot of content out there, and probably led to them seeing more things that were very specific and focused, right? And then I also focused on offering far more free sessions than we have offered in the last 5 years. I haven't offered free one-on-one calls. I want to be accurate in this. So I've been fully booked for 5.5 years. I forget the math on that. So that first year, I definitely offered free calls. That's how I got fully booked. This was the first year we brought those back very intentionally because I saw at the beginning of this year, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw my content reach go down. I thought I need to lean into that. I saw customer journeys taking longer. I saw what was happening in our online space, and I was like, great, I'm not going to be one of the businesses going out of business. So we started offering free calls. We've had lots of conversation about that in this group. And so I've offered more of those, but because of that, that also means content, like that one post in air quotes can work better for me because I've created a very easy or an easier next step for people to take. So I want you to hear, like, those are all the various components. That's what's always worked, but I'm just seeing how being willing to care a little bit more about content, being willing to be a little bit more specific, being willing to put a little bit more effort into something, being willing to offer a free call when I haven't had to in however many years, and be very easy to create a story of like, I shouldn't have to because I'm past that. I have so many clients, intensives and clients that I've booked this year as a result of that combination of being willing to do that combination. So if that is helpful to hear. And maybe this is also helpful to hear. And because of that combination, I've found our customer journey in many, because we talked about the customer journey being longer this year, I've actually seen my customer journey shorten this year, which I'm mindful to say because I don't want it to be like the goal, like it's not like wrong, better or worse if you have a longer or shorter customer journey. However, I do think it's interesting to notice and for me to see, oh, our customer journey has actually gotten shorter, significantly shorter. I think it's been cut in about half if my metrics are pretty accurate. And I think this is part of the reason for it. I think part of the reason has been the focus on messaging and content, and then the opening up of that easier entry point with a free call. And I tell this to clients all the time, if there's resistance around this. I think sometimes we're just looking at, there's always going to be a customer journey, but there are certain things we can do to speed up that customer journey to cut that timeline down. And what we're doing is we're speeding up the know, like, and trust. And the trust, I think, has been what has been such a big component for us to look at in 2023, and I think we'll need to in 2024 as well, even though I do think things are picking up and momentum's building, and overall I think people are feeling more ready to invest again. But if we know that trust is a big component, right, and we look at how can we increase trust, leaning into strategies that build trust are going to then collapse that timeline and customer journey. Hopefully that's tracking for you. So that is something we saw. I saw quite a few clients this year, intensives and ongoing clients, come from our two most recent master classes. And again, this doesn't mean you have to do master classes, but I think it's helpful. And I think it would be very easy for me to say, oh, master classes are the secret to getting fully booked and making multiple six figures when other businesses are shutting their doors, right? We could like spin this in so many different ways. Instead, I just want you to think about how you could apply this to your business. Really, what that is that's a strategy that I've been using for 5 years. So it's a strategy we've had a chance to play with, and it's a strategy that allows us to bring in cold traffic and to warm up and to do exactly what I was just talking about, to speed up, to close the time gap on the know, like, and trust, the relationship build, to nurture people, to give people something really valuable for free, to be willing to be of service and to help people get results before I ask for anything in return. That is just what works always. But I think this year, what I really saw and what we focused on, just so you can maybe hear the difference, is I really focused on doing fewer. In the past, I've done a master class every month, and they take a lot of work and honestly team time and energy and money for us to run, because yes, it's like free for you, but we have to create assets, and that takes team time, and that takes my time, and that takes time away from clients. And so in the past, we did one a month, and that worked really well for us. And this year, because of what I was seeing, I decided I would rather us do a few, but really be that much more intentional. So in the past, we've repeated a lot of masterclasses, and I don't think that's wrong. I just kind of put different wrapping paper on them. I coach a lot of clients around that. I think that can be a really great strategy, but especially given the client roster I have, and I really wanted these to be a tool to bring in clients, we basically did less better, and we were just really intentional with updating past master classes and being really specific, similar with the content, with the messaging, with the positioning, with the marketing, with really looking at and improving data, even just seeing like, oh, looking at emailed subject lines or emails and just updating things that in the past we probably would have just honestly just repurposed past material. And I think one of the reasons these perform better for us is because we took the time and we put in some effort. And I was willing not to be like, well, that worked for me 2 years ago, it should work again. I was willing to put some time into revamping things, and I think that is one of the reasons they performed better for us. And again, we offered free calls on the back of it. And not that this is not a live stream to say everybody needs to offer free calls, but I do think if we're thinking about what's working right now, what is, instead of stretching, if we know customer journeys have been a little longer, what's cutting them down, I think to see being willing to refine things, to update things, to put some effort in, to be intentional, to improve them, and then also be willing to take steps to make it that much easier to build that know, like, and trust, and particularly that trust piece, and to give people a chance to experience your work before paying. I think hopefully that's just evidence for you. So we saw the best results we've ever seen this year from my master classes. It's the same strategy we've always used. We actually did fewer of them, but I believe that's why. So again, I want you to hear a couple of things there. I want you to hear like, oh, some of the same things that are working, but why is this working better than in the past when other people are saying shit's not working? I really think some of it is being willing to do less better. I think in the past, it was more almost about like volume to get in front of people. I think now it's just how can we be that much more drilled and specific, look at data, up-level things, really listen to our audience, really listen to what people are needing. That's making such a big difference, and being willing to just take that literally like one extra step that other people maybe aren't willing to take. Okay, let's see. So a couple of other clients came from, we did free session giveaways in this group. Those are always completely something that feels authentic and good and in alignment and yummy for me to give away. I never expect a client to come from those. And I also would be lying to you if I said that I don't know, if I pretended that I don't know when people get on the call with me that they're going to have a great experience, and if we're a good fit together, that they're like, of course they're going to want to work with me. And I don't mean that to sound cocky at all. I've just been doing this for 7.5 years, and I am very good at what I do, and I know that. So while it both feels good, and I feel very detached when we give away free sessions, and I would not offer them if I was expecting anything in return, because that doesn't feel like a very sincere gift. I also know, of course, like if we do a free session giveaway, like you've been warned. And I think I even say that sometimes cheekily in the promos for that those historically have always brought me clients. So just to hear if that's helpful to hear. We had a couple of clients who came from personal outreach, and this is something I've seen work really, really well for myself and for clients. And I think there's a couple of nuances to that to hear. I think I said this in our conversation we had earlier this year about what's working right now, and it feels really good for me to validate. Not only am I seeing that working, but I've just really seen how well that is working for everyone. Not every one of my clients this year, that a new client came from personal outreach. And the personal outreach I'm seeing that's really worked well for myself and for my clients has not been cold personal outreach. It hasn't been spamming a bunch of fucking people. It has been everything this whole conversation, like the theme of our conversation has been about today. It's people that are already in my community, that are already warm, that I've already noticed that I would like to work with, that I already have in my, maybe in my customer journey, or who are kind of on the periphery that are already a great fit. And the personal outreach has been more literally what I've just been studying on every single other one of these strategies or things that are working for me. It's been, how can I make it that much easier to build a know, like, and trust? How can I take the effort? How can I put myself out there and kind of take the first step and be willing to do something before asking or expecting a potential client to do that? What can I do to close the timeline on that customer journey? Well, personal outreach. And so seeing like it's coming from that same lens, and what's worked well for me is only reaching out to people I sincerely and genuinely already have a relationship with, or even if it's a relationship through my Facebook group, that I would love to work with, not just random strangers and spamming them. And same for my clients. I have a couple of clients. I have one client in particular, actually 2 clients who are having their best year this year. One has like quadrupled their revenue, and one of their biggest strategies has been personal outreach, but it's with their it's with their network that they already have. It's just them being willing to take that extra step that's made all the difference. So if that's helpful to hear, again, this isn't new necessarily from what we were talking about last year. I just have the data and the results in now from my business and other clients' businesses through the end of the year. And I'm just really seeing, as we're going into 2024, what is actually working. And I think what's important to hear with that is, it's also the rest of the strategy that makes something like that work. And then I think the rest, anybody else who's hired me, I mean, there haven't been that many open spots. So you have to think all of these, like, we're talking like a couple of clients here and there, but the rest have been direct consults or free call bookings from my Facebook group, from Instagram, from my email list, from my podcast. All of those send me traffic and leads. I'm always interested in where they originate, where something originates from. And that's why I was saying, like, the person maybe who saw me in another Facebook group with a post, they might have still ended up booking a consult or something directly from my group. But I'm always interested in, again, like, yes, that's what's working and that's still working, but what was kind of the original strategy that was really working to bring them through the door, as well as that other step. So absolutely, people still come in through the door that way. But when I'm seeing people book directly from my Facebook group, from my email list, from my podcast, from my Facebook group, a couple things are true. One, again, I've absolutely had people still book consultations, but I've just seen more people take me up on a free call, even if it's with the intention of it being a consultation. And I mean, I get it. Like, I would do the same thing. That's why we offered it. And again, this is not a live stream to say you have to do free calls, but I think it's helpful to hear what the free calls purpose is making a safer, we want to be very intentional in how I say that, but safer next step, an easier next step for someone to explore the possibility of working together, and an easier way to close the timeline on that relationship build and that know, like, and trust, so someone can see I am who I say I am, and that I'm not full of shit, and that I really can support them, and we really are a great fit to work together. And so for you, that might not be free calls, but it might be something else. And I'm just seeing more people entering through that way than through consultations. Now, that's just my business. I have other clients who are seeing something completely different, but I thought it might be helpful to hear. I hope this isn't boring for y'all, because I know I don't have a lot of comments. So you'll have to let me know. I'm hoping this is interesting. I know this is the kind of stuff I'm always fascinated to know, like, when we see a big business, kind of what's working behind the scenes, especially when we're also hearing businesses that aren't working. So there's nothing like revolutionary here or brand new here, but hopefully that gives you some insight, and also some insight into what I want you to be hearing, which are some of those specifics, but like some of these are just core practical business principles, relationship building, and being good at what you do, and delivering on service, and having sales skills. But also some of these are, how can you be strategic and intentional with taking those steps, taking that step that other people aren't willing to do. So when it is a buyer's market, then you're the person someone's going to notice, right, over someone else. Because when it's a buyer's market, that just means people have a lot more options. And so if we're just doing the same thing we've always done, it's not that it won't work, it just probably won't work to the same volume or degree, because a buyer has more options to choose from. And if a couple of those people who are making offers are willing to take a couple of extra steps, right? Think about Black Friday. I bet you bought some things that there were probably more than one option, but because they gave you an incentive, because they were willing to take a step towards you to make it like a little juicier, like that's the product you bought over something else. That's just the name of the game we're seeing in business right now. Okay, I am already almost up on time, and I wanted to share, we're gonna share, because these are two important pieces. I'm gonna share first the surprising truth about my client's $1 million strategy, and the two sales components I see all of my clients who are sustaining or making more money this year, who are not struggling to bring in sales, what I see them implementing. And then real quickly, we will close with, I just want you to hear a couple of the various main strategies that my clients that are growing this year or sustaining this year have been using to bring in clients, just so you can hear. Because I share what's worked for me, but some of you might have a very different business model than me. It could be like, give two fucks about one-on-one. I want you to, or not want to market online. I want you to hear some of those other strategies. So the surprising truth about my client who's going to pass the $1 million mark, we have a call soon. I don't know if they've already done it, if they're about to. But I think what's helpful to know about that, with everything I was just sharing, because my business is built, I'd say 95 to 99% from online marketing and relationships. This is a client who is about to cross $1 million, who is, I would say, this is a not verified stat. This is me guessing because I've worked with them for a while, but I'd say 80 to 90% of their clients come from offline marketing. And all of the principles I just talked about are still true. They're just applying messaging and marketing and relationship building and personal outreach and being willing to take that step other people aren't willing to do, right? They're just and really great service and really great delivery and referrals. Like they're just applying that offline, and that's just what we've worked on through all of our strategies. So I think that's helpful to hear, and maybe also surprising but helpful to hear. Because I think the story is it has to only be online. I have another client that I think I talked about this on Instagram who just filled a group program, just had their biggest cash month ever in business. I think they just crossed 8K, and this is their first time crossing that in business. And again, they use all offline marketing as well. They're not someone who uses online marketing. And I think particularly with a group model, that's something I think we're pretty much taught, like you can only do that online. So I just want you to hear that evidence. The two components, every single one of my clients is using, and this is what's helping them to not struggle with sales this year. This is why I'm seeing clients sustain, like maintain their rosters, maintain their revenue, or many of my clients have increased their revenues. Actually sharing this with one of my clients who I think they added 30K of revenue this year to their business. And this client was almost like bummed by it. And I was like, wait a second, you don't understand. If you're still in business this year, you should give yourself all the gold stars. But if you increased your revenue this year, like you're a unicorn. Like that is something to so celebrate. And I think, again, like hear that for yourself. If you're still in business this year, give yourself a gold star. If you sustained your business this year, give yourself a gold star. And if you added revenue this year, like I would just be like I am a unicorn. But two things. So my clients are kicking butt, and what I've really seen them, and these are practical basic things, but I think they're just helpful to be reminded of: relationship building and follow-ups. And you could argue follow-ups are part of relationship building, but I'm seeing those as the two core components. I'm gonna list through some of, like, I have one client who is using traditional marketing and online conversion events who's doing really well this year. I have one client who's got 95%, the client who's on track for $1 million, of personal network and referrals. That's where their sales came from. One client who we actually did run the stats on this, and I think it was 80% of her client base and revenue comes from speaking events. I have one client who is on track for their biggest year, the one who just sold out their program. That is, I think it's like 90% in-person events and fairs, and then she has an email list that when she meets people in person, she adds to. So there's a little bit of content, but not like social media marketing. But that's mostly in-person events and networking. I have another client who I think they're about to hit their first 6 figures. They definitely had their first 10K month, and the last quarter, it's been between 8 to 10K months. They are all online, all reels, all social media marketing. I have another client who's added 30K of revenue this year and crossed into the multi-6-figure mark officially. That is a client who does a mix of online and offline networking. And so if we look at all of those, right, I think that can almost be overwhelming. I want you to see, like all of these, everything works if you work it. But I think then also look at what's the thing you're going to most be able to show up and work. But what I want you to hear is what works for all of those clients is not so much, this one client does reels, this one client does in-person networking events, this one client does all networking and referrals, this one client does speaking. I don't want you to hear, speaking is the ticket. What I want you to hear is all of these clients are very, very intentionally using those strategies to start and build and nurture relationships, and the core of their marketing focus is on relationship building and literally focusing on the know, like, and trust, and being very strategic and intentional around that. And I think we hear relationships and we hear strategic, and it almost feels like those shouldn't exist in the same sentence. You're a business owner. You can build authentic relationships and an authentic know, like, and trust, and care deeply about the relationships you're building, care deeply about your people, and also be strategic and a business owner who has something to offer and sell that is only going to take that relationship to the next level. I really want you to hear that that is not wrong or bad. Both can exist. I have many clients that I have formed friendships with. That's not why they hire me, right? But we can both have that relationship and also a business relationship, and both can be right. But the other piece here, I was talking about this with a friend recently, and I think this is something everyone knows, and no one, like, everyone wants to forget or like pretend they don't know because no one wants to lean into this. I do not know the stats on this. I wish I knew the stats with my business and with my clients of how much of the reasons that we're sustaining or scaling in 2023 is the result of follow-ups. I actually don't want to know because then it would mean we'd have to not follow up to find out. But I do know the stats on follow-ups. I've said this before, and I'm just going to be a broken record. And if you sign up for my free sales course for the holidays, Sell Out Without Feeling Like a Sellout, you'll hear me in this, and I actually walk you through various kinds of follow-ups. But the majority of sales are made between the 5th and 12th touch point. And this is a different stat, but we're seeing that people are needing now between 30 to 50 micro touch points to be ready to buy. But in terms of follow-ups, we're seeing most sales happen between the 5th and 12th touch point. And most business owners fail to follow up at all, which blows my fucking mind. And then I think, if I remember correctly, the stats are something like 80% of business owners only follow up once. And then I think most like drop off after the second follow up. And I know I've said this before, but I just want you to hear, like, I think the relationship building in this is why, whether you're speaking or using Reels or using social media or using personal outreach, like whatever you're using, it is relationship building, it is the follow-up process. Like if you were to do nothing else, like that would change the game for you. Because what this tells us is most people are dropping off in their follow-ups far before most people are ever going to be ready to buy. Most people are ready to buy between the 5th and 12th touch point of follow-up. So if you're following up, not at all, right? You're leaving, that's like 80% of the money in your business you're leaving on the table. If you're someone who follows up only once or twice, you're still missing so many follow-ups that create that sale. And I know you know this. I was having a conversation with one of my mastermind sisters around this, and I was loving like giving her a hard time around this. And I was like, I feel like you just want me to remind you this because you know this, but I feel like you just need to hear it from someone who's neutral and who's not in it, that like the answer to the thing that you're having a question around is as simple as just follow up more. It's almost like our brain doesn't want it to be that simple sometimes, or that we want it to be more challenging or more complicated. And I want you to hear it can be as simple as build relationships and follow up. I preach messaging. I preach a strategic marketing strategy and customer journey. And I do think that makes a really big difference, especially when you're talking bigger revenue months and those consistent revenue months. And you can honestly have kind of a okay message and not even the most strategic customer journey. If you're building relationships and you're selling and you're following up, you can get pretty far with that, right? The messaging is just going to make it a whole lot easier, and it's going to help you cut through the noise and bring in more of the right fit leads. And a strategic customer journey and sales process is, again, just going to allow you to make more sales and bring in more people and allow you to bring more of the right fit clients and help you to sustain reoccurring revenue months, especially at the higher level. But like literally, if you lean into those two aspects, you'd be amazed at what that could do for your business. And the reason I wanted to have this conversation in terms of what's working right now, this is what's always working, but I think again, when we're in closing out a year where it's been a buyer's market and we're going into, I know there's a lot of like doomsday talk about the economy next year. I want to keep saying I'm really seeing things pick up in our space overall. I think it has been, again, I've seen for my clients sustaining and scaling this year, but I think kind of across the board, the momentum's picking back up online. But I also want you to remember, because what I have seen is when you get frustrated, when you see someone who's shutting down their business and you think, well, shit, that's happening to them. Like, why should I even bother? What's even the point? When I see people are having a harder time, or when I see people who in the past were making a lot of money and this year was hard for them and they didn't lean into things and they're struggling to make sales, it's almost like we forget the fundamentals that work. We forget it can be as simple as lean into relationship building, take that extra step, hop on that extra call, reach out to someone, right? Be a little more intentional in your content. We forget it can be as simple as send a couple more follow-ups. And I think the brain can either get into shutdown mode or into looking for the secret mode. And neither one of those, right? Those are essentially fear responses, right? One is freeze, one is essentially flight. Both of those are not responses that actually allow you to bring in sales and bring in clients. And so when you can notice that that's what's going on, and that's why I want to have this conversation now, because if the end of the year, looking at numbers or hearing what's going on in the space or any of that is kicking any of this up, I really want you to notice where might you be freezing, where might you be trying to go into escapism and like look for the secret, and instead come back to it really gets to be this fundamentally simple. And if anything, if you're struggling to make sales, usually what that says to me is it's an opportunity to go back to basics, to drill back into basics, to do basics better, and then yes, to also see like what are some of the things that are working right now. Well, some of the things that are working are, personal outreach. Yes, it's personal outreach, but what is it about that that's working? It's taking that extra step to build a relationship. It's taking that extra step to help someone feel safer. It's taking that extra step to build trust, right? Like, I think just understanding what are the mechanisms under what's working right now, because then you can apply that to everything you're doing to make more sales as we close the year out and into the new year. I think that is everything I wanted to say. Can I mute myself? Oh my gosh, I just totally drank water down the wrong pipe. Oh my gosh. Anna, I didn't see these comments as I'm choking. I was on a rant. Oh my gosh, I can't drink. But I'm so excited to see Anna here. Anna, I love you so much. Anna says, agreed. It's all about the connection, relationship building. It's the easiest and the hardest thing. Yes, that common thread, that it's all a form of connecting with new humans and putting time into nurturing. Oh my gosh. As I'm like crying and coughing here, Anna says, no, like trust forever. Yes, relationships and caring, and also wanting to make money. Gets to be both. And I love you. I hope I didn't lose you here. You are the best. And I'm so sorry I missed those comments. I was just like on my little roll here and just totally not looking at the screen clearly. But I'm so happy to have you here. And I think it's just so nice to hear from you as well that you're seeing the same. Anna has we actually just did a live on Instagram. I will pin to that, y'all. We talked about being booked out and sustaining being booked out for 5 years plus we both have in our businesses. And if you don't know her, is a beautiful, beautiful human, but also a brilliant business coach for heart-centered entrepreneurs. And I just adore her so much. And it's, I think, just nice to hear this isn't just me saying this. This is someone who also has the same experience and is holding people behind closed doors and seeing the same as true. So Anna, I love you for that. I did have one last thought. I was after my coughing attack. Too funny that I wanted to close out with that feels important to say. So this is what I was sharing with my friend in my mastermind about the follow-ups. And I think this is something I support clients with this is something I support clients with a lot. And I think this is where follow-ups get wonky and why people resist follow-ups or even relationship building. And I would say this is just something kind of like a thing under the thing. If you're struggling with sales, I would check in with that. I'm just seeing across, like, this will change the game for you. And it's noticing where you're making your business personal and emotional. Look, and I get it. I love my work. I love my clients. Like, it is personal in that way. And also, it's not personal at all. It is a business. It is a service. It is about the person in front of me. And when we can remember that, and when we can take our personal emotions out of the sales process, and if you have personal emotions, this does not mean bypass them. It doesn't mean don't process them. It just means take them out of the sales process. Bring them to your coach, bring them to your mastermind, like my friend did, bring them to your friend, bring them to your partner, right? Bring them to your therapist, process them, but process them outside the sales process so that you can see your sales process as a very neutral process that is like, oh, well, if sales happen between the 5th and 12th follow-up, this is a pretty neutral thing. I've only followed up 0 times. I've only followed up once. Right? This is not emotional. This isn't personal. This has nothing to do with someone not liking me or thinking I suck or thinking I'm not good enough or not liking my product or thinking I'm annoying. There's literally no emotion here. This is just a process. That just means I've got to follow up again. And if someone doesn't respond, that doesn't mean they're ghosting me or they hate me or that they think I suck, right? It doesn't, like, that's all the emotionality that we want to, again, take outside of the sales process, permission to feel your feels and to process them. We don't need to shut them down or bypass them, but also just notice those places you're telling yourself stories. And come back to how, if we remove the emotion from the sales process and not the emotional connection, I want to be mindful here, right? We're still going to connect with people, but if we can remove our emotionality and we can remove us taking something personally, it is amazing then how you can show up to allow for the emotions of the person in front of you, to allow yourself to emotionally connect with the potential client, to allow yourself to show up for your sales process. So I feel like I talk about that a lot, but that felt important to say. Hey, Angie said, great point. It can be so seductive to go into escape mode. It really, thank you for saying that. I think it's just really helpful for everyone to hear that normalized and just to hear, of course, it's so seductive. That's how our brains are wired. We are wired as humans to avoid pain, seek pleasure, not to create success. And anything that's outside our comfort zone to our brain feels like a threat. And when we feel like there's a threat, booking clients and making lots of money and having lots of success, or feeling like a contraction because it's been a harder year, will feel like a threat, right? What does our brain want to do? Fight, flight, freeze, bond. And escaping is a form of flight. So I think that's just so helpful to have normalized. I really appreciate you sharing that. So for everyone, as we're closing this live stream out, I'm so sorry that I missed all your comments before. I don't know why I didn't see those. I hope you'll hear this conversation as a couple of things. One, as a just level set for this year. We're going to talk about that more in next week's live stream, which will be our last of the year, and I have a fun giveaway for that as well if you join live. Spoiler alert, yes, I'm giving away our last free coaching session of the year, and yes, you've been warned, you might want to hire me afterwards, and you already know I don't have any spots available till February, so I'm offering that because I sincerely want to connect with someone, unless you want to hire me in December. Not because I'm trying to sell to you, but that is what our giveaway will be next week, and we have a juicy conversation to close the year out on. And I'm hoping you're hearing from this conversation just some normalization around what this year has been. If you didn't add on 100K or 500K to your revenue this year, but you're still in business, you're still showing up, you're still bringing in clients, you're still making money, you're still sustaining, give yourself that gold star. And I also hope that this was helpful to help you see what is really working right now is what's always worked in business, but when we're maybe feeling that fear, or we're hearing people are shutting down their doors, or we're in that worry, it's so easy to lose the forest for the trees, to forget the business basics. So come back to basics if you need to. And then I hope also just literally hearing where some of my clients came from and where some of my clients' have come from will give you some insights. I don't want you to leave this live stream now thinking you need to do public speaking and personal outreach and live streams and post in Facebook groups and work on your messaging and do offline marketing and host events offline. I don't want you to hear that. What I want you to hear is evidence that these are the different things that are working. What is underneath that fundamentally that is working to bring in sales? And then to hear some nuggets in there where it's like, right, taking that extra step, right? That's really what the personal outreach is about. Like it showing up to speak, right? That's really more about building that deep inner like and trust, hearing what's underneath that is really working. And then yes, if you are online, I think it is also just helpful to hear, oh, maybe drilling into my messaging, being a little more specific in my content, maybe doing less better, like the same things that have always worked that are working, but like how can I just put in 2%, 5% more intentionality and effort than maybe I was in the past, and see what does that do for you. I know we've talked about 1% effort before. I heard someone say 1% effort is it's sort of like inflation. It'll just keep you steady. And if you really want to grow, it's something more like add in 3% or 5% more effort. And I know we're in an online space that hates talking about work, but I think it is maybe helpful to see what we're talking about here is not adding in 50% more effort. I want you to hear this and to look at what you're already doing and see where is there an opportunity for maybe that 3 to 5%, even 1% to sustain it. That 3 to 5% more you can lean into. If you're closing out for the end of the year, think about this for the beginning of next year so that you can bring in those clients and set yourself up for that reoccurring revenue. And then don't forget, if you want to join me for free in my 6-week sales course, Sell Out Without Feeling Like a Sellout, that's my holiday gift to you. And it will be free. You'll get instant access until January 1st, and then it will become paid again. So get yourself in there and join me. And then if you did want to take me up on the opening we have for December, I'll drop a link for a call for that. Or if you want to talk about February, I would love to connect with you. And then I will be back next week to close out the year with our last live stream and conversation for the year. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging with me through my coughing attack. And we'll talk really soon. Bye.